Hi everyone. So in this recording, we'll be discussing about tables in HTML over here. So for that, I just created a new file in the file explorer where I created a file with a name called as tables with .html extension over here. So let's go and get a basic boilerplate. So I'll just say HTML with 5th version over here in order to get the basic boilerplate over here. And I'm running my application on the local host on port 5500 over here. And now let's say the title as tables, and I will just go ahead here and we will start getting or rendering certain tables on the screen here. In order to get the tables on the screen, we do have a tag called as table over here, with the help of which we can just render certain amount of table on the screen. In the sense, if you wish one table, we need to have one table tag over there. If you wish similarly 5 different tables, you can have it for 5 more times accordingly. Okay, so let's say now in order to build our table here, the two most required things in order to configure or build a table is nothing else than our rows and columns over here. That's nothing but a table always consists of a row and a column over here. So in order to get a row within our table, we do have a tag called as tr over there, where tr stands for table row over here, where tr stands for table row over here. So let's say if we just write it as tr over here, we just got one row within this particular table as of now. So if you want to have a column within this particular table row here, we do have a tag called as td over here. So let's write a comment. What does td stands for? Td stands for table column, also called as table data. So now I just built a single table here where I'm having a single row with a single column as of now. So let's write some number here. I just say it as 1, and then if I just save this particular one, and let's go back to our output, and if we just refresh our application over here, see, we just got 1 as expected over here, right? So let's go back to editor, and then I will just start saying over here, we need a table of 4 by 4 over here. That's nothing much, a 4 rows followed by 4 cross 4 columns over here. That's nothing but 4 cross 4, in the sense 4 rows 4 columns of table needs to be built here. So for that I will just say I need a td, that's nothing but table data, for 3 more times. So I will just go with a shortcut td into 3 over here, and then let's write a number 2, and then I just go and hit on tab in order to go to the next line. 3, hit on tab again in order to render to the next line. Let's go with 4 over here, and then if I just come back to my outputs over here, see, we just got 1 2 3 4 as expected over here. We just got a single row as of now. Let's say we want another row over here. So for that I just say tr, I wish one more row within which I need to have a td, that's nothing but column, for 4 different times. So I just say td into 4. So what I'm doing here, I'm using a emmet abbreviation. So if you can see this shortcut, I'm simply saying here I want a row within which I need to have a column td child tag over there for 4 instance. So this is what the structure I'll be getting on hit of enter right now. See, now I just say 5. Let's go with the tab. Let's say 6. I'll hit on tab again. Let's go to 7. Hit on tab again in order to go to the next line, and I will just say it as 8 over here. Let's say I wish for it for 2 more times. So I'll just say tr greater than symbol, and I wish a td child, and for how many instances? I wish it for 4 instances over here. So let's hit on enter again. So I will just say 9, and let's say 10. Let's go with some numbers again. So I will just go here 11 followed by, I will just say 12 over here. Similarly, I wish it for 1 more time. So I will just say tr a greater than td into 4 times. And then I just start writing the numbers. So let's say 13 over here. Let's say 14 over here. And I will just say 15 over here. And followed by 16 over here. Okay, so now let's just go back to output. In order to see, we would have got 4 by 4 row as of now. So if we can see over here. Okay, so now we just got that particular table over here, but as of now it's not looking like a table, it's just looking some random data on the screen here, right? Why? Because we don't have any sort of border over here. So for that, let's go and have certain border over here. So again, in order to know much more about your tables, we can directly go to a browser and just search for table mdn over here. That's nothing but Mozilla Developers Network over here. And we can just see the very first site where we'll just get more insights about our table over here. So in order to understand about our table, see, we do have a tag called table, and let's just wait for our site to get loaded over here. And we can see we have some deprecated attributes as well, where deprecated simply means we are no longer having any kind of support for these attributes. So we had something called align, background color, border, okay, shell padding, and many different types of things accordingly. Let's not use any one of them as of now. Why? Because since they are being deprecated for the current version, which simply means they stopped providing any sort of support for these particular attributes. But right now I'll be using one thing called as border in order to make sure how exactly we can get border for our table over here. So I just go back to table tag and I just say border over here. And even if I keep it blank and if I just come back to my outputs over here, see, we started getting border for our table, right? So we started getting border for our table over here. So let me just zoom in over here and we can clearly see we started getting our borders for our table. So let's go back. So where each and every box over here, we can see we have each and every box, right? That's nothing but column over here. Each and every box is called as shell over here. Okay, so for each and every shell, we are having a box as of now. For each and every shell here, we are having a box as of now. That's how we can just go and get certain border on the screen. Again, this particular attribute, what we have border is being deprecated. So that's the reason we're getting it in red like highlighted structure. So in order to get or achieve this particular one, we achieve it usually with the help of our styles. Okay, that's nothing but we go with the CSS over there. We do have a style as an attribute and we can just say we wish a border over here. And we can just say we want a solid border. That's nothing but a solid line. And then if we just come back to output, see, this is working fine, but we just got a single solid line here, right? We wished a lines or borders among each and every shell over here. In order to achieve that, we need to just jump into our CSS and we need to specify I wish border for each and every shell over here. But as of now, let's come back. Let's remove all these particular things. We'll just assume we don't have anything called style as of now. The main reason, since we are into HTML right now, let's concentrate more about HTML. The moment we enter into CSS, we will discuss about all these particular styles over there. So now we just got this particular table. So in order to get a table, we had a tag called table. And in order to get a row, we do have a tr, followed by in order to get a columns, we do have something called as td, which stands for table data over there. Okay, and again, this is the very best site in order to understand all the things over here. So if we can see, we have different types of layout for our table contents as well. We have a caption, t-head, call group, and all these particular things. Let's discuss. Again, we have something called table head, table body, and table footer. We can split this particular table into three different things called as header, body, and footer part over here. So for time being, I just add a border in order to look it quite pretty for us. So the moment I add border, we started getting our border in this particular way. So now I can split this particular table into many different stuffs here. We can split into heading followed by border, followed by we can also have something called footer over here. But before that, let's just go. I would like to have one more row over here. And let's say I want to have a table data for 4 times over here. Let's say I want to have one more row on the top here. So I will just try to add some names over here. So let's say I want to add a name such as, let's say we want to add some names over here. I will just say call1, indicating column 1. Similarly, I want to go ahead here and I just say call2, indicating column 2, and so on. Let's say call3 over here. Let's just say call3, so on and so forth. I will just gonna add one last thing called as call4 here. So if we come back here, say we just got call1, call2, call3, call4 over here on our table as well. But right now, this should be looking quite bolded and like a header like structure, right? It's a heading for this particular row over here. So how can I make this particular one bolded? For that, rather than writing td, we do have a tag called as th over here, where th stands for table heading. So you can just make it like a heading like structure. When I speak about heading, which simply means we'll be having quite bolded, at the same time good font size over there. So let's just go and I will just try to replace all this particular one here. So I will try to replace all these 4 in a single go. For that, I will just click on this particular first line over here, followed by Control plus Alt plus down key for 4 times. And I will just rename it to th over here. I will just rename it to th over here. Now if you can see, I just renamed th over here and it just got auto close for the other one as well. How is it possible? It's all possible because of our certain extensions what we're having in this particular editor. In order to understand that, so if I just go back to extensions in my VS Code and if I just search for auto close tag over here, let's just search for auto close HTML. So we would have installed an extension here. That's nothing but auto close HTML, with the help of which it's just getting updated in a single go over here. So let me show which extension I'm using over here. So let's just say HTML and we will figure out, see, I'm having auto close HTML over there. Okay, so let me just get it back again. We can see we have something called auto close tag, which will automatically add HTML or XHTML tags closing for our screen here. So I just added this particular extension for my editor as of now. So even you can just go and you can hit on something called install button for this auto close tag over here. Okay, so let's come back and then I will just go back to my outputs over here. So let's come back to our output, and if we can see column 1, column 2 and column 3 and column 4 is having quite a good bolded like structure, right? Which indicate it's been bolded and it's looking like a heading like structure as of now. So let's come back again and then we will just discuss about other stuffs over here. So apart from these things, we do have 3 more different types of tags called as T-head, T-body and T-foot over here, where T-head stands for table head, where T-body stands for table body and T-foot stands for table footer over here. We mainly use these things to define a set of rows, defining that it's a head for T-head, indicating for representation wise, again if you want to group all of these things in a body, we have something called T-body, indicating if you have a footer for your table, we have a T-foot over there. So now let's go ahead here and I will just say we want to have our T-head, T-body and T-foot over here. So for that I will just say T-head over here, and similarly we want to have a T-body. Similarly, I want to have one more thing called as T-foot over here. So now what I'll do, I'll just remove the very first row over here. Let's remove the very first row over here and I would like to add it under our head over here. Let's say within T-head, I want to have all these things. Similarly, I'll remove all these particular things over here. Let's just go and I will just remove all these contents over here and I will just add it within my body over here. So on, I want to add one last line for footer over here. So I'll just go within my T-foot and let's say I want to add a row over here. So for that I will just say TR. I want to have a column for 4 instance. So let's say TD into 4 over here. And I can have some values over here. So I will just say ABC, just some random contents as of now. And let's say XYZ. Let's just say HKG. LMN. Okay, and now if I just go back to my outputs over here, see, we just got our table header, we got our table body and table footer over here, but it makes no change in our visual representation when it comes to your UI level output over here. So irrespective whether we write T head, T body or T foot, it will not gonna change anything on our UI. Just for our convenient purpose, we will gonna have our table head, table body and table footer over here. So we can see I added a table head over here within which we're having a table row, and similarly I'm having a table body here within which I'm having 4 different rows. Finally we're having a table footer within which we're having a single row over here, and we just got our output in this particular way. Even if I comment out those lines, okay, let's say I'm commenting T foot, I'm commenting table body, I'm just commenting table body opening over here, so similarly table head, and similarly if I close this particular one, and if we just go back to output, our output still looks as the same way how it was looking even after incorporating or adding those 3 tags over there. Okay, it will make no difference or no change over there, but the only reason why we use table head and table foot and table body, if we want to style specifically something different styles for header, something different for body or something different for footer, in order to group them, we can use our TH, T body and T foot over there. Again, it's not a mandatory practice to use them, but it's always encouraged to use those particular tags over there. Okay, so let's just go and I just uncomment this table head, table body and table footer over here. It's always a better practice to have those particular things used at a proper place. Okay, so let's just go and I will just uncomment all of these things over here. And if I just go back to my output, it still looks as the same way over here. Okay, so that's something about your table head, table body and table footer over here. We can see we have a T body and T footer over here. That's the main reason we are having our table head within which we're having a table row for table head over here, and followed by follow our table columns over there. Okay, similarly, we do have different types of styles for our tables as well. We can use them and we can just style it accordingly over here with the help of our table head and table body and table footer tags over here. In a similar way, we do have different types of tags over here. We do have something called as caption, call group, and call over here. So let's go and understand those three tags and their importance in order to use with the help of our table. Let's go and get them understood right away. So I will just go back to my editor over here and let's go with the very first tag. We do have a tag called as a caption over here. As the name caption, it simply indicates it will be a title or a caption for your table over here. So how do we achieve it? In order to write or achieve our caption, we can just go within a table tag and we have a tag called as a caption over here. So let's say caption, and I can just write certain caption or a title for my table over here. Let's say it's my table demonstration as a title for this particular table. And now if I just go back to my outputs over here, so we can see we just got our table heading or table title over here. So it's all achievable with the help of our caption tag what we have in our table over here. Similarly, we do have few more tags. We have another two tags called as a call and followed by call group over here. Where call we mainly use in order to define a column within a table, and it's used for defining certain common semantics on all common shells over here. Whereas call group, as the name, we mainly use it in order to group a certain amount of columns within a table so that we can apply the styles accordingly. Let's say I want to group the first row and second row and so on. In such case, we can use our call group over there. So let's understand how we can just go and group them. So for that, I will just go ahead here and let's say we have a tag called as call group over here, within which we'll be using multiple amount of call tags over here. So let's go and have a call. So let's just say we want to have a call over here, and then we can just say what style I wish to have within my table over here. So I just say style, and let's say I want to have a background style of pale yellow, or let's say light yellow. So I just go with a light yellow as of now. So now let's just go back to output, and if we can see, let's observe if we are able to get any sort of light yellow color over here. So I just went over here and I just told, okay, we want to have a color. Let's make it red only. It's not clearly visible, and we can change the color accordingly at later point of time. So let's say I want to have this particular color over here, and if we can see, for the first entire column over here, we started getting a red color over here. Now the question comes, can't we span or can't we have it for multiple columns over here? Yes, we can have it for multiple columns as well. How is it possible? For that, we do have an attribute called as span over here, which simply means we can specifically say how many columns I want to span over here. Let's say I want to span it for two different columns. So I can just go and I can say it as 2. By default, if we don't define span over here, it will always be 1 over there. And now if I just go back to my output, it would have been spanned for two different columns. See, we just got our outputs on red background on two different columns. Similarly, if you want to span it for 3 or 4, you can just go and update your number accordingly. So let's just change it for 3 over here. And similarly, let's say I want to write it for one more time. So I'll just say call, and let's say I want to have a background color. Let's say we wish to have certain style over here. And I will just say we want to have a background color of a green over here. Let's say green, and then if I just go back to my output over here, see, the last column has been in a green color right now. Okay, similarly, if I just go ahead here and if I just reduce the span from 3 to 2, and let's go back over here. So if you can see, the third column has been occupied with a green background color over here. So what if you want to have it the same thing for the next one as well? So you can just go and you can just use a span tag over, span attribute over here, with the help of which you can span it for multiple amount of columns. So let's say 2. What happens if I just say it 1? By default, it still remains the same. So irrespective whether you define it 1 or not, it will be always the default 1 over there. So what happens if I specify it as 2? And now if you can see, it will gonna take it for two different columns over here. So in this way, we can just go and use our caption followed by call group and call as the different types of attributes within which we have a span over here. With the help of which span attribute, we can directly go and we can span the color for different types of shells as well. Okay, these are the main structures what we will be using more oftenly in our tables. Apart from this, we do have certain attributes or two more different types of attributes which will play quite a vital role in your table over here. What are they? So we do have a row span followed by we do have a col span over here. Let's understand what is that row span and what's that column span over here. As the name row span, which simply means if you want to span among multiple amount of rows, then we do have a attribute called as row span over there. Similarly, if you want to span among multiple columns, then we do have an attribute called as col span indicating column spanning. Okay, so these attributes could be used with the help of your TD tags or with the help of your TH. Right now, let's say I want to go with the TD over here within the very first row, and I want to span among my row here. So for that, I do have an attribute called as row span here. So what happens if I just go with the default value here? It will still remain the same in your output. Okay, so row span 1 will never gonna change anything. So even if you write it as 1, it's always the default one. Whether you write row span is equals to 1 or not, it will always remain the same over here. See, even after writing row span as 1, it's not affecting my UI over here. Now what happens if I just update it the value from 1 to 2 over here? So we can see at the moment I just told or I incremented the span value from 1 to 2, we got something else here, right? That's something, but this first shell over here is being spanned among two different rows as of now, right? That's the meaning of our row span here, right? I'm simply saying I want to span among two different rows. So we just got it spanned among two different rows. See, the number 1 or the shell 1 is being spanned among two different rows. Correct? Similarly, if you want to span among three different rows, I can just go and increment the number accordingly. So let's increment it from 2 to 3. And now if I just go back to my output, see, the shell 1 has been spanned among three different rows over here. Similarly, what if you want to span among column wise? Let's say I want to span among column wise. So for that, okay, let's comment this thing and I just like to have one more TD. Let's update the value as 1 over here. Now, what if you want to span among the column wise? So for that, we do have an attribute called as col span over here. Again, the same thing, if you just keep it as default or if you pass the value as 1, it's the default thing. It will never gonna change your UI. So what happens if I specify the value as 2 over here? And then if I just come back to output, see the shell 1 is being spanned among two different columns. That's nothing but column 1 followed by column 2 over here. Similarly, you can update the same row span or col span for any of this particular shell over here. That's the beauty of having your row span or col span here, with the help of which you can span among different types of shells over here. The one important reason why we go with row span or col span here, in order to prepare your timesheets or your timetables in your schools or your agenda whatsoever, in order to prepare that, we'll be using our row span or col span over here. So let's have a quick revise what all things we have covered in this particular recording. We discussed about a tag called as a table, with the help of which we were able to render a table on the screen. We do have an attribute called border, with the help of which we'll get a border for our table. And we do have a caption in order to write a title for our table. We do have call group and call, with the help of which you can apply certain styles, such as your background colors or any other different font colors or anything else. As of now, we just kept it as a simple background color over here. Again, the style and entire things is nothing but an inline CSS. We don't need to worry about this thing at this point of time. We would be covering it much more deeper the moment once we enter into CSS. And we discussed about T head, T body and T foot over there. Similarly, we discussed about a TR in order to get a row and TH in order to get the headings. Similarly, TD in order to get the table data or the column over there. And finally, we covered two different types of attributes called as row span and col span, with the help of which you can span among your row or among your column accordingly. So that's it for this particular recording as of now. Hope all of you enjoyed and learned something new over here. So thank you all.